My next Patreon question is from Morgan, who wants me to compare two time travel movies. For the past few days, there have been two time travel features on my mind. Considering your cinematic passion, I was curious to know your view of them. 1979's Time After Time, which was made by Nicholas Meyer, and 1980's Somewhere in Time, which was based on a novel by Twilight Zone writer Richard Matheson. I find it fascinating not only that two time travel movies were released 1 year apart from each other and both have similar themes, but both were executed differently. Time After Time is an adventure, while Somewhere in Time is more of a romance. Both had strong cult followings, with Somewhere in Time getting a massive fanbase. My curiosity is, which one do you feel holds up better, Time After Time or Somewhere in Time? So I revisited these movies a few days ago, and honestly, both of them are really good time travel movies that are worth watching. But if I had to pick my preference, I'm going to say Time After Time. The premise for Time After Time is such a brilliant concept, as it centers on H.G. Wells using the time machine from his famous story. Not only that, but he goes forward in time in order to stop Jack the Ripper from committing crimes in then present-day San Francisco. Nicholas Meyer found a really fun angle to tell the story, and mixes it with solid comedy, a sweet romance, and even moments of tension. The casting is also on point. Most people know Malcolm McDowell from his villainous roles like Alex in A Clockwork Orange, but he is just as good at playing heroes. He is fantastic as Wells, nailing the fish-out-of-water parts of the plot. My favorite scene in the movie is probably when he goes into a McDonald's. He also has excellent chemistry with Mary Steenburgen as the woman he falls in love with. Steenburgen brings an immediate likability to banker Amy Robbins, and the sparks between her and Wells feel natural. McDowell and Steenburgen later married, so I'm not sure how much acting was even involved in their romantic scenes together. And then there's David Warner, who is appropriately chilling as Jack the Ripper. Meyer directs some rather suspenseful scenes, and Warner portrays the needed menace. There's some social commentary there on the violence of the modern world, and how Jack would not have been too out of place in 1979. Time After Time also finds great use of San Francisco, as we see Wells making his way through the city. This was Nicholas Meyer's feature directing debut, and he did a terrific job of mixing the genres. By the way, if you're a fan of Star Trek IV, The Voyage Home, then Time After Time is definitely worthwhile viewing. A few scenes Myers originally wrote for, but omitted from Time After Time, even ended up in Star Trek IV. And this is not the last occurrence of Mary Steenburgen falling in love with a time traveler either. As for Somewhere in Time, I find it to be a very sweet love story, with quite a unique time travel hook. Every time travel movie seems to have their own rules of how the concept works. The way Christopher Reeve goes back to the year 1912 seems outlandish, but I actually accepted it. The film also presents the idea that he was always destined to travel to that point in time. Reeve gives a charming and likable performance, and his scenes with Jane Seymour as an actress he falls in love with are really nice. We also have Christopher Plummer as her overprotective manager, and the filmmakers were able to give him a decent amount of dimension, although the scene where Seymour tells him what's what is definitely satisfying. The use of John Barry's score, as well as Rachmaninoff's Rhapsody, also add to the feel of Somewhere in Time, which is nicely directed by Jeanette Swark. He had directed Jaws 2 right before this, so I imagine this was a nice change of pace for him. The movie was filmed at the Grand Hotel on Mackinac Island in Michigan, a place that does not allow cars. This choice of location contributes well to the period's setting. The subtle bits of humor also work, like Reeve choosing an outfit that was already 10 years out of date in 1912. Overall, I think Somewhere in Time succeeds as both a unique entry in the time travel genre, in addition to being a touching romance. Most people think of Christopher Reeve just as Superman, but this film proved he could play other roles quite effectively too. Now let me know in the comments whether you prefer Time After Time or Somewhere in Time, and thank you for your question, Morgan.